Black revolutionaries, distillery owners, Italian fashion retailers, and Motown Grammy winners all share their best stories never before told in any other media outlets on Detroit is Different. Visit DetroitisDifferent.com or download the Detroit is Different app on Apple's App Store or Google's Play Store.
All right, audio rolling. Welcome back to the Detroit is Different podcast. Y'all already know where we at now. We in full swing of what's labeled as back to school season, fall season. A lot of things changing, but really the anchor of most of this is, you walk in the aisles of the different places you go and you see all these notebooks, you see crayons, you see pencils, you see paper, you see so much more. Actually, if you have a child, the back to school list nowadays have gotten a lot thicker. But we're going to talk about more than that. We're going to really talk about not the supplies. We're going to talk about actually what the supplies are used for. Education, growing, and connecting with our population, black students. You know we love that here at Detroit. It's different. So, back in the studios, I have somebody special that's engaged on all facets and even organized the people that educate. Marini Lee, how are you today?
I am well today. Thank you for having me. How are you?
Everything's cool. All right, so with this, I'm going to kick off the usual Detroit is Different style.
Okay.
And then we're going to get into all the particulars about what I just gave you all. So family, friend, like what led your family to Detroit? Are you first generation, second generation? What brought your people to the D?
So my people aren't in the D. My people are still in California. I will be the first generation
Okay,
here.
well then, all right, that's even a bigger one. Where at in Cali?
I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area. I was born in Oakland, raised in Richmond. So for you folks, Coach Carter, that's the city that I'm from. It reminds me a lot of Flint, post-industrial, working class town, just kind of like here. And I think that's kind of what drew me here because it reminded me of home. That and I came out here for grad school and just never went back. Sorry, go ahead.
All right, so that always people that transplant and get here in the Bay Area has a lot of Detroit feel. It's I would go as far as to say like E40 and Spice One and Too Short and that whole it's very similar. But even the revolutionary acts of like the
Black
funk,
Panthers.
it's a lot of connections between both. But what did your family say when you were like, I think I'm gonna stay in this Detroit area? What was the response?
When are you coming back?
Hilarious.
Right.
Hilarious.
And the same sort of question, well, why are you still there? What's the draw? And it's because, not just because it reminds me of home, but it's hard for me to articulate. There is something important about Detroit. There's that saying, like, so Detroit goes, so the country goes, in terms of like being a North Star geographically and in terms of like our political movement as a people. This is a very important place. So I felt no hesitation to commit to staying here and working here because it felt like I was working at home. The things I would be doing at home, I would be doing here. But again, I still don't know exactly why I'm here, but I know I'm supposed to be here.
Because I can only imagine. I always wonder, like, from the outside when you come here and when your friends and family like, all right, what you do? What's going on? You know what I'm saying?
Because it's like a home away from home. And I think that's the part of the blackness, and I feel comfortable here. I feel that it's more than okay to serve and work here.
All right, so now let's talk a little bit about, you said grassroots brought you here. What were some of your first impressions just being in the city? Like, what stood out?
The beautiful black people and just how friendly folks were. And it's that instant home connection. Hey, sis, how you doing? Actually, like, looking in your face and your eyes and, like, greeting. The food.
Okay.
The food is great. The city skyline, the neighborhoods, everything. It's this strength. And yes, there's struggle, but I'm used to that too, right? The juxtaposition of the cityscape and then, the hood and how do you make that work in a way that's good for us. I saw the city still kind of working that out, and I wanted to be a part of working that out so that we thrive and not just survive, right? And that's the kind of thing I would be doing wherever I was. But again, I was saying before, I don't know exactly why I'm here, but I know I'm supposed to be. So it just feels right.
Okay, so in that same vision of feeling right, work. What were some of the things you said? Grad school brought you here. So let's even stop there.
Okay.
At grad school, because you graduate, then work. You stay here. What were you working on? What were you doing? What was the job that kept you grinding?
So if I can be totally honest, I finished the master's degree, and so I should tell you I came here to get a master's degree in education.
Okay.
Because Michigan State at the time was the #1 teacher prep program in the nation. And I'd come from Stanford. I'm like, if I'm gonna do this education thing, finally found my calling, I'm gonna go to the best place to go. And so that's what brought me to Michigan. And then, if I can be honest, again, East Lansing wasn't a comfortable space, and so we was hitting the deed to get our black fix, right? And so that's what drew me to there. And I've been trying to get to Detroit from East Lansing or Ypsilanti for years. So I've actually only been in the city area for the past 2 or 3 years. Been trying to get there because I was doing grad school in East Lansing. Then after that, I worked at Eastern for 3 years, and then was trying to still do the state thing in East Lansing. I was ready to leave the state, but I had a mentor who was because I was trying to go to Chicago. I'm trying to go to the blackest city I can get to, right? And my mentor was well, what about Detroit? She's like, you can still work here, but try living in Detroit. One weekend, I was just like, my lease is about to be up. I got to move closer to the city. And I was trying to get in the city, but that didn't happen. So Ferndale, I'm half a mile from the city, right? So close enough for now anyway. Still trying to get to the city. Anyway, my point is that where was I going with that?
You were at so you were kind of already connecting more with the city because it's I gotta get my hair done. I want my food seasoned the right way. I want to
see my people.
I want to be able to use some slang the right way. I want the jokes. I want the culture to feel a certain way. As most of us, in the Detroit area, we've traveled to East Lansing. We've been in Ypsi. It's a little different.
It's a lot different, right? And so when you are in East Lansing and you're looking for the black connection, all the folks come from the D.
Yeah.
So you got to go where the folks are from.
Yep. And
so it was really as simple as that. I was either in Detroit or in Flint because I needed to be with my people.
Yeah. So in these trips and that connection, just working in education. So first, we got to shout out who your mentor is. Who's your mentor?
Well, one of my mentors, her name is Sonia Gunnings Moten. She's currently retired from Michigan State University's College of Education, but that was the individual who poured into me when I was a master's student. I just come here from California and I didn't know anybody, and I was just kind of struggling with the resources, and everybody was like, "You got to go talk to Dr. Gunnings," and so I called her up and was talking to her, and actually, I was ready to go back home after my first semester, and she was like, just stay, come have a conversation with me. And she ended up hiring me for a summer program, and the rest is history, right? So she was one of the main reasons why I stayed after my first semester of grad school.
So Dr. Gunnings, what was what's the background? What was the impression? I definitely that's beyond to go in and ask for some support and then walk away with a job. That's big. So what was her feel making that connection and start off? What was that impression?
So it's like meeting a hero before you know they're your hero, right? And then just watching how she operated and moved was very extremely helpful to me. So that yeah, you're gonna edit this, right?
Oh, keep going.
Okay. Well, because I got to kind of disclose to you, I haven't spoken to her in 2 years because we ended things on a very...
Right. It wasn't as connected.
Correct.
But
right.
Sometimes things happen.
Exactly.
The ebb and flow, but that doesn't mean... What do they say?
I'm extremely grateful for it.
Every goodbye ain't gone.
There you go.
You know
there
what
you
I'm
go.
saying?
Yes.
And then academia is an interesting space.
Ooh, you're telling.
Especially being black in academia. It's an extremely interesting space.
Extremely.
We think of, you mentioned Eastern Michigan, shout out Dr. Peters, And then you think about Michigan State. I think Dr. Taylor.
I didn't get to work with him, but oh my gosh, Dr. Taylor is like,
and it's many people. Why do you think academia, as much as it's like on paper, it's like, okay, we're socially progressive, we're liberal. What's the disconnect to actually like ingratiating and empowering so much of, I don't want to say the black faculty, but for lack of better terms, just the faculty, the students, the people in that space to actually influence and be present? Like, what becomes some of that disconnect?
I think the disconnect comes from like being actually disconnected from the work, right? So I wasn't a traditional academic, and neither was she. Sort of this like, I'd like to think of this like this kind of practitioner thing. So yeah, I have this PhD and I can do the research, but I'm about working with like the kids, and I'm more of like, I guess they would say an administrator, but not really. I'm more of like a program person, right? So I was running summer programs, and most of my kids, I mean, the programs that I'm working for were like pipeline programs. So we're recruiting kids from Detroit, come to Michigan State, become a teacher, go back to Detroit, right? And so, yeah, I'm doing that work. I'm, in the schools and recruiting the kids and talking to the parents. We bring them to campus. And that's what I got to do as this academic specialist, right? But there are other folks who are like faculty members. You could stay in East Lansing the whole time and never come to the D. But you can fill your philanthropy cup by working with these poor kids that come every summer. Right? Or you're getting grants you get dollars to have programming for like this for kids here, but like you don't really have to get your hands dirty. Right? So I think that's some of the disconnect. They're doing what academics do. They are pontificating on these theories. And no shade to the theorists, because that's hard work too. But the disconnect is because they're disconnected. They're reading and writing and doing theory and doing experiments. But are you working with kids? Are you talking to parents? Are you judging those parents that you're providing opportunities for their children? Are you so again, like, I think they think that they're doing well and right for our community, and they are, but the disconnect is the disconnect. They're not technically, or they're not on the streets. They're not talking to the people. They're in the ivory tower, still looking down on us, and that's us looking down on us. If I can be real honest.
And as you shared that's unique, because I mean, I'm wearing my Northwestern shirt. I'm the president of the Northwestern alumni, and it's unique even as I sometimes sit in the Northwestern meetings, and classic alumni, some heavyweights, some giants in the school, but oftentimes it's theories about what's happening and how school should be, and then it's always what I always bring is like, when's the last time you walked into school? When's the last time you sat in the class? Because some of these theories versus some of the practical things that it just, school has changed. Northwestern's which just won its name back from like a long battle of being DCP at Northwestern, so the alumni is very happy about that. And it definitely it's there in the tradition. But if you graduated from a high school in the 70s,
Okay.
the nature of the average student now is like the transient nature. Like a school, it's not far-fetched for a student maybe to move residency 4 or 5 times in the same school year now. It's not like they live in this house, they walk down the street to the school.
Right.
These are the same people you went to elementary school, kindergarten, elementary, middle, and high school. It's a whole different get down. You know they mama, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? We know when people's birthdays is coming up and everything. Like, it's a whole different culture of what's going on. You know what I mean? That I sometimes say, like, it's phenomenal. Like, our Northwestern alumni, we do a Thanksgiving giveaway of food every year for like the holiday. And we'll find ourselves like gifting maybe I want to say 50 to 75 families, but driving all over, not just the city, but even to the suburbs.
Okay.
Where you're like, damn, you coming all the way from way over here, deep east side to get to the west side because you've already started in this semester and the way that things go, like so many things are culturally different.
Right.
You know, and I urge of most people, even though you do need a clearance and things like that, especially the level of volunteerism you plan on doing at a school, but it's just observational just to see what's happening in a school versus probably when you left school. Because for most people, the minute you leave high school, you don't ever go back.
Right.
But you have an idea of how it's supposed to be, and then some of us even romanticize what our high school experience was. You know what I'm saying? And like, you know, you mixing some Saved by the Bell episodes in with really what high school was. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know, like, oh, remember when we took over the radio station with Mr. Belden? Like, nah, bruh, that ain't what really happened, my
We
G.
didn't do that.
You know, that is not what happened. So, in that awakening for everybody across the board, you know, what do you urge for people from the outside in to like just tap into the reality of what's happening in a school today?
If I can toot my own horn, do what I'm doing. Substitute teach. Get your behind in a classroom. Get your behind in a building so you can see. You know, if I can go into a little bit of what I'm trying to do is I want to open a school. So I was like, exactly what you said. I haven't been in a classroom in a long time. I was a preschool teacher in my 20s. That was like 20 years ago. And yeah, I have some ideas of how classrooms should run, and I can walk into a classroom and do a lesson. But if I'm going to build a school that addresses the needs right now, I need to know what's going on right now. And so I have been subbing. I've been in different buildings, some in Detroit, some in Oak Park, you know, all over the area, just trying to, you know, see what is going on, what are the needs now. Now, I can bring all this knowledge that I have about education and what we're supposed to do, but if I can't match what's going on in the context, I'm not going to be helpful. So it's getting, like I'm going to go back to the term that you used, the disconnect, is making the connection, doing programs in the community. You got to go there if you're going to serve there. You're not really serving, right? So what I would suggest to folks is to get to work. Volunteer, be a sub, something.
I want you to expand upon, you said know the context. What does that mean? Break that down for us.
Know the context, know who you're serving, know why you're serving, and then think about how you're serving matches the first two, right? You can't, and you also have to know yourself, right? A lot of the work that I do is identity work, figuring out who I am and who I need to be for this context. You know, I did my dissertation on middle-class white teachers preparing themselves for urban schools, and I was asking them, who are you? How did you grow up? And then who are these children that you're serving? And let's look at this. And then who do you need to be for them? How do you need to change who you are for them to match the who of them? And then where do they live? Where are they coming from? What ideas do you have about that? And how do those ideas need to change? So the context is definitely the who. To me, it's most about the who, right? Who am I serving? What is the history of this people? What is the history of this city? How the people came to this city? What organizations are already working here? What do my kids go through on a day-to-day basis? Right? So the context, to me, the most important part of the context is the who. And then figuring out like the history of the area, the history, and then the present, because that'll help you figure out what the future is. And then it's their future, whomever you're serving. To me, it's the kids' future, right? So let me ask them what it is that they want. I'm gonna tell you what's going on. I'm gonna show you how to think. I have some hopes for how I think you should proceed. But at the end of the day, this is your future, so you will have to run with it. But I'm going to just give you as many tools as I can, to me, helpful tools, so that, you know, the future is bright for all of us.
Okay. You just gave a lot of good game. So we got to, like, hopefully you guys took a snapshot of that. Dissertation. What was that?
My dissertation was about again, the shortest version is who do these middle-class white teachers need to be for our kids? And when I say our kids, I mean black and brown kids, mostly from lower income areas. If I can back up a little bit, when I was in a master's program in Michigan State, I noticed that all of the folks, I was there full time, but most folks were there part time because most of the folks in the master's program were full time teachers. And I'm sitting in these classes with these full time teachers, and they're talking about kids like me. Right. And and I'm like, where did y'all become teachers? Y'all still have these crazy ideas about black and brown kids. And they were all trained at Michigan State. So I was like, oh, so I need to figure out how Michigan State not even Michigan State, how are these teachers being prepared? So my dissertation was about preparing urban teachers. And we know the stats, 80 to 90, depending on the year, 80 to 90% of teachers are middle-class white females, right? So if these are the folks who are going to be teaching our kids, I need you to think about who you are. I need you to think about who my children are, our children are, and how you need to be, who you need to be for them, right? Because that 80, 90% is not going to change, I don't think, in my lifetime. Now, I'm still trying to get more black and brown teachers, yeah, but at the same time, earlier we were talking about, like, reality. Yeah, my hope is that one day we'll have, representation that is equivalent to the reality in terms of teachers that matches that matches the community. But until then, I got to work with these white girls and make sure that they're not jacking up my kids any more than they already are. And so again, I was talking about identity work. So I was working with them on this storytelling method, right? Because identity, that's what it is. I'm telling you a story about who I am or who I think I am. I'm telling you a story about all my experiences. So the idea was, well, what are the stories that you tell yourself about who you are? What are the stories that you tell yourself about who your kids are? And what are the stories that you need to tell that you can write? How do you write yourself into a different person, figuratively and metaphorically? How do you write yourself into the person you need to be for this little person? And so that's what we did. We observed their teaching, and they told me the stories about what they were doing. I told them about the stories about what I saw. And then I asked them to write new stories. I asked them to write down new stories, but I'm getting them to metaphorically write down a new story of a new identity of who they need to be for that black and brown kid. So that was the essence of the dissertation. And so I was arguing that, we write who we are, and we can write who we need to be, and we can show anyone, like all lives matter, we can show anyone how to write a new story for themselves, whether it's on a piece of paper or in the actions that you take. Of course, I want it to be the actions that you take, but when you stop and you write down a new story, you're more inclined to walk a new story.
And that's unique that you brought all of that up. Is I've often said this, obviously being black man, I was at one point black boy, and school was the first place, I've said this on other episodes, where it was the first place where I felt trapped. It was the first place where I felt like you can't do this, you can't do that.
Wow.
And I never was really even given the context of why. And I think culturally, things just were like more disconnected. It was so rare to get, especially like a younger black man that's a teacher. And we, and you've probably seen this in schools, like, you almost are attracted, like magnetic around how they move, how they even discipline us, because it's a context of like, yeah, we're more active, we have more energy, we're gonna, different things like, let's do a push-up contest before class starts, which, on paper, it's like, why would you do that for first graders? But that can get that energy off. And now it's like, okay, now I'm ready to do math and focus. I'm not set up to just sit at 9 o'clock in the morning and you just talk to me and we going over how to add and subtract. It's like, I want to touch something. I want to move around. I want to, do something where it's like, oh, you're lacking discipline. You know what I'm saying? I never was given Ritalin or anything like this, but just from knowing like friends that have sons and things like that, it just often gets diagnosed like this. I was watching something online, and I mean, we've seen stories like this before where they're like, look at the children that are misbehaving and expect who's going to misbehave most. So it was like the classic black boy, white girl, black girl, and white boy, all at a table. Every teacher, and there was some black teachers even in it, all said black boy, black boy, black boy, and the kids were doing the same behavior. But it's like if I already walk in with this prejudice and bias that you're gonna do something that will be, misbehaving. And sometimes it could be misbehaving, but some of that misbehavior is that cry for attention, and just culturally, how to respond if you have a cousin that does the same thing, if your son does the same thing, if you have a nephew, if your brother, it's like, I've seen this
it's not
before,
even misbehavior if you understand who that kid is, right?
Yeah.
Like you were mentioning, like black boys are often targeted because they are, we call them kinesthetic learners, right? Movement, right? So that's why those push-ups got you ready, because we move. That's how we do, culturally. So that school or those teachers, they didn't understand who you were, right? And so at first when you said that you felt trapped in the school, I was like, oh my God, that's so sad. But they're like, no, it makes sense, because these schools are set up like prisons, right? They want you to, they tell you when to move, how to move. You got to ask permission to go use the bathroom. That's a biological function, right? But not all schools are like that, right? They heavily police us and our bodies in our schools, but go to the suburbs, those kids, it's a different ball game, right? Our kids, you got to raise your hand to ask politely in a tone that don't piss off an adult if you can go to the bathroom. You go to some of these suburban schools, kids get up, write their name on a piece of paper, go to the bathroom, come back. So, right, it's about the setup. It's about not understanding, or maybe they do understand who they want you to be, and they don't want you to be who you could be. So it's. I see how you could be trapped, right? It's about those black boys are getting marked even by black and white teachers, because there's this implicit bias, right? You already have in your mind what you think he's going to do, instead of, who is this little boy that showed up right in front of me here today? People don't want to, I don't know if they don't want to, or they don't take the time. And I'm going to indict us educators, right? If you struggle in the classroom, if you don't take the time to figure out who your kids are, you asking for trouble. When I was a teacher, them first couple of weeks, we're not adding nothing. We building community. Because I'm not to spend this whole year yelling at y'all. We about to build a community. We'll get to the reading and writing, the adding, all that. Yeah, that's going to happen. But I need to know who you are, so that when I see you squirming, at circle time, I'm not going to just cut into, okay, I'm going to go through my mental Rolodex. Is he hungry? Is my classroom set up the right way? What are the other distractions, right? Who is this individual? I know that Billy loves to sit on the number 7, and somebody got to the number 7 first. That's why he tripping, not just because he's trying to get on my nerves, right? But paying attention to who is in front of you can save you a whole lot of trouble, and it'll keep our babies from feeling trapped in school.
Now, I guess on the flip side of that, this is just the business mind.
Absolutely.
That takes a lot of energy.
It does.
Do you think that, so will more money incentivize more teachers to have that capacity? What's the incentive to even connect more teachers to expend that energy? Because that's like really building building real personal connections with each and every student.
Money could solve that problem if you paid teachers enough to where they're not having to hustle 5 different jobs outside of school. They would have more capacity to build those relationships. If our system valued the relationships between a student and a teacher, more teachers would do it. But because on a system level, we don't value the teachers. They don't have the time, their energy, or the finances to be able to do that. Teachers are spending their own money to get supplies for the kids, right? Teachers are human. I'm spending my own money, not even a lot of money, and I'm spending my own money for this classroom. And you want me to care? And most teachers do care, right? But yeah, money could help with that, because then I don't have to hustle and spend all that other energy when I could focus on my kids. So that is a part of the problem. But it's also about how we think about what's going on in these school buildings. That needs to change as well. So yes, money can help, but until we change the way we think about how schools should work, the money it'll be a Band-Aid.
So
But it'll definitely help, because teachers shouldn't make no less than, I was gonna say 60 grand, but that's me. That's what I think. Even first year.
In the grand scheme, I agree with that. I think money would provide a little bit more clarity, so now you're not juggling. And from knowing so many teachers, we met through teacher. Being a master teacher and a love for it, you can definitely tell the teachers that like love and are passionate about the work. But it still does take that's one of those tasks. It's not a job that's like on and off. You know what I'm saying? It's not working the line at General Motors. You sometimes may even need to detox, especially depending upon the population of students you're dealing with. Because some of the most as they call it, the worst schools, is Northwestern's labeled one of those. Like you're dealing with students that are usually experiencing such, just hard things to process at home.
Right.
Hence, the acting out is for the attention probably not given at home, and fulfilling different things that just, it's like it's a reflection of society.
Exactly.
And I even always used to tell people, like, if we as adults had to, for 9 months, gather for 6 hours in our community, 30 deep, we think schools are crazy. If that was a lesson or something, it would be, people would be getting shot every day. You know what I'm saying? Over just, you know what I mean? Because us in some of these same communities, even as adults, like, the students are only mimicking and reflecting what they've seen and what they have access to.
Absolutely. The school is a microcosm of the larger society, right? So that's why, like, money can help, but schools can't solve all problems, right? So, yeah, we'll do our school piece, and I'm going to educate kids, but whole communities, we can even say the whole nation, the whole world, needs to change. And I get that that's like a pie in the sky, and that's a big idea, but I mean, it's the truth. The school is just it's a picture of everything else that's going on outside. So yeah, we can address the teacher problem, but we're expecting teachers in schools to solve all of our societal problems. That's not how reality works, right? You can't just do bicep curls and then expect your whole body to change, right? So that's what kind of like what asking that question is. So yeah, well, if you get really good at pumping your biceps, what about the rest of the body? The rest of the body needs work too. So yeah, that doesn't mean you don't stop doing your bicep curls. That just means you got to address the whole body. So yeah, we working on this school thing, but like you mentioned, the kids are coming with so many life challenges. We got to fix those life challenges too. School can't fix all those life challenges. We can help our kids get equipped so that when they leave the building, they can address those challenges, which is why I love project-based learning. But to expect only the educational route to fix things, and I think teachers and education has felt that pressure. It's too easy. It's too easy to say we just got to fix education. If we just if all the kids can just read and write well and they all go to college, well, everybody can't go to college. First of all, there's not enough room for everybody to go to college. And that's a whole other conversation. But my point was, school is a reflection of the society. School is only one of the cogs in the machine that needs some reworking.
But it is like...
It's an important cog, but it's not the only one.
But it has become in certain ways like a closet in the room that we don't even think about, as if like it will fix this because it's supposed to do this, and it should function like that. In another one of the talks, and I'll be talking, I guess, to a couple different educators, and this is refreshing in a deeper discussion. I like it. When I start talking more, it's like triggering my mind. But we're at an interesting crossroads right now because of post-pandemic.
Are we really post-pandemic?
Well,
but anyway, I'm sorry.
Let's say because wherever we're at,
right?
The pandemic,
Since
okay?
it started, okay.
But
That's
since
fair.
that start, I know the schools in Michigan are now going to be open without like half and half learning as of now, and that presents an interesting group for this class of 2023, as this is the class of students that at the beginning of their school journey they only experienced a little bit. Like, some of these students are going to be interacting with fellow classmates, so it's new social dynamics of just like the arc of what, back to, this ain't Saved by the Bell. This isn't the arc of the high school journey that we all had. So that's unique. And also with that, it put a lot of stressors on so many educators. It's a lot of teachers that have walked away from their jobs throughout the pandemic.
Absolutely.
To the point where it's certain substitute posts that have like now almost become full-time posts, and the system itself is at a unique space of like the educators, the administrators, the students themselves. Nothing like this has been precedented in our lifetimes.
And
I don't. And at the time of the Spanish flu, public education was not at a point where it was as widely widely a public good, because we were still more so in the agricultural age at the time, transitioning to the industrial age, which ushered in the movement of public schools across the nation. So the point I'm getting at is, as this is all happening, just being people in the community, in what ways do people on the outside that may not have a kid at the school or whatever, what ways can we support? What ways do we help what's happening so our community is empowered by the young people going to that school in our neighborhood?
Ooh. I want to be thoughtful about this.
And hey, I understand. Take your time, because the question I asked is not
that's a big one.
It's not like you like the red shirt or the blue shirt.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. It's interesting though. I should be able to answer this question because you asked it to me, because I don't have a kid in the system, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I would ask you to do what I'm trying to do, which is, one, I'll go back to what we talked about before, figuring out who it is that you want to serve, and really understanding who it is that you are serving. Get out of your own head, get out of your own. I have, some ideas of what it means to be a Detroiter, but I don't know. So go and learn. So first, go and learn. Go and learn about what is going on in whatever context you choose to serve, right? If you want to help in education in a school, go to that school, physically go to that school and ask those people. Don't send an email. Don't call. My introverted self, I love doing that. I love social media. I love it. But sometimes you got to physically go. Ask those teachers, ask those building principals, ask the Boys and Girls Club, ask the people who are on the ground doing the work, what's going on here? What do you need? Here's my skill set. Here's how I think I can help. But what do you need? I think you got to come from a more humble position than a lot of folks who want to help come from. A lot of folks who want to help come from like, hey, I know what to do, and I'm gonna come and tell you what to do. I'm gonna save your neighborhood if you just sign up for my program.
They watch the lean on me, and they want
They
to do
watch
a
the
Joe
lean
Clark.
on me. They
Be
want to
like,
do a Joe Clark.
do it on and do it expeditiously. And it's like, no,
Right? No,
don't Joe Clark it.
don't Joe Clark it. You need to humble yourself, and you got 2 ears and 1 mouth. So close the mouth, open your ears, open your eyes. Go figure out for real what's going on, so then you can really be helpful. And you got to let some of your ego go too, right? Yeah, I got this idea, and it's a great idea, and I'm super smart, and I'm Dr. Lee, but that's not my school, and this isn't my neighborhood. Not yet, anyway. I want it to be. So how do you do that? right? You physically go to the neighborhood. You live in the neighborhood. I think that's a good idea that, police officers or firefighters or even teachers, you need to live in the neighborhood that you're serving. Maybe that's a controversial thing, but like, how else are you going to really genuinely serve a population if you don't know what's going on? If you haven't, experienced it in some context. I'm not saying that everybody has to live in the city to serve the city, but some folks need to.
But even something like today, I mean, I'm glad that I have my power and my lights on, but it was a storm today. A lot of people lost power and lights. So coming in tomorrow, that's going to be possibly a different, you may have a half and half class.
You might have a half and half.
These kids went to sleep, and it's hot as ever today. It's humid because it's muggy. You know what I'm saying? Sleeping in a muggy, that's a different experience for that kid. You know what I'm saying? Now walking back into this school with a little bit of AC and some relief, I may not feel like, but if you're not in that space,
you don't know. And if you didn't even take the time to understand that your kid might have come from a place with no AC and now they're walking into one, that's a part of that thing about knowing who you're serving. It's real easy to be like, well, why didn't you go to bed, or why didn't you get up? Why didn't you eat breakfast? It's too easy to say that if you don't know that, okay, he's 8 and he might be 8 at home taking care of himself and some younger siblings. Matter of fact, I had some third graders who were taking care of the younger siblings last school year, who I saw maybe 10 times between January and June because they were taking care of their brothers and sisters, right? So I'm a, cut into the kid when he finally shows up to school because he had no control over what's going on. But why aren't you listening to me? Why aren't you paying attention? Because he's sleepy. He didn't sleep last night. Right? So I'm going, I feel like I broke a record, but I'm going back to that who. If you don't understand the who, you're doing a disservice.
So in this space, this is unique, and you have something. This is like a great segue into what you're doing. You have something coming up where you're actually going to be providing some of your skills, some training to little homies, some activity. What's happening coming up the 3rd?
So on Saturday we are starting the Literacy Lounge, and what that is, it's once a month we're going to get together and we're going to read aloud to little ones and to middle and high schoolers, Black books and Black authors. Kind of borrowing an idea from freedom schools, right? Children's Defense Fund freedom schools, where they don't teach kids the mechanics of reading, but they inspire a love of learning, which tends to translate into higher academic, goals. And so that's what we're trying to do. Just get kids excited and passionate, Black kids excited and passionate about reading Black books. And so this Saturday we've partnered with In Harmony Cafe, which is on Dexter. And at noon we're going to have the Littles, and their book is actually Preschool Pals, which was written by a Detroiter, Clarissa Foster. And one of our board members is going to read that story, and then we have an activity for them afterwards. And then the high schoolers, we're going to start with J. California Cooper's family, which is a very interesting story about an enslaved woman and just kind of how her family managed that, we'll say.
Okay, that's unique. What was on your heart to do this, and who's the population? Who is this for?
This is, well, specifically it's for Black Detroit children, or just Black children. Okay. And what inspired me is, I eventually want to open a school, but again, I'm doing my homework. I'm figuring out the who. And this is, I get a chance to work with kids. I get a chance to do what I love, to teach. I get to serve my people. And these are very, I statements and kind of selfish, but it's an opportunity to do some homework. It's an opportunity to get to know what it is that, the kids in Detroit need, and in the specific neighborhood, because it's in the Russellwood Sullivan area, and that's where I personally want to live, and where I'm committed to starting my school project. And so specifically it's for Black children, a little more generally the Black children in this neighborhood. But it's really for anybody who wants to come hear a good story written by some Black people.
That's unique. So, have you ever done something like this before? Is this inaugural?
It's inaugural for this particular program, but this is the kind of thing that I've been doing for years, is creating youth programs that most of the time serve us. And so, yeah, this is, I kind of say, this is what I do. This is, it's not just this is who I am. This is what I came here to do. This is, this is not just an occupation, it's a vocation.
What, so in this, and that's unique that you say like a literacy camp. I know exactly where that's at. And yes, if you haven't been on Dexter in a long time, it is a cool coffee shop on Dexter. So this space and that community, that's unique because that is another footprint of a community where my father stays now, and I stayed for a long time. It's unique. I think it's uniquely Detroit, exactly. And it's some little homies over that way. I think when I think of that, and definitely working with little people, little homies, as I always say, Queen Mother Helen Moore does a lot of work over in that area.
I've been trying to
find her. And we'll link that up.
Okay, thank you.
And when we think of that style of work and what that becomes, what that is, it's deep. That's deep.
It's deep, but that's also who we are. Mary McLeod Bethune, she started her school with 6 kids and $1.50. Hey. She was selling life insurance to feed her own family while she was building her school. And now we have Bethune-Cookman. Yeah. This is what we do.
So those stories, like, and why is it so important that the schools, and I've done a lot of work, GMAC and everything, and we think of the African Center School movement in Detroit, but why is it so important to have a school built in the image with Black leadership and Black intention? Why is that so important for you? Please give that definition.
Because other spaces are not safe for us. And that's not to say that all skin folk are kinfolk either, but I am most confident in spaces for us by us. I'm struggling with this because I love the intention of public school. I love what they're supposed to do, but I just don't feel like they're safe spaces for our kids right now. And it's heartbreaking that even in the city, and not like the teacher that we went through, because she's the bomb, right? Oh, yeah. If the city was full of teachers like her, I could not even finish this thought. But they're not. There's too many of us who have bought into the white supremacy culture Kool-Aid, right? And that's what runs the public school system nationwide. And until we're ready to have that conversation, I think we need to do what we did in 1906, with Mary McLeod Bethune. Pool our resources and take care of our kids, and that's I'm just doing what our folks did when we were starting these HBCUs. When we were starting the HBCU, well, the ones that were advocating for us to be self-determined as opposed to just being continue to be slaves that just were getting paid dollars.
Yeah, this is unique that you even speak to that. What does that vision look like as now, it's other things, and shout out to Mama Shu, what she's doing with the Homework House and leading a camp right now for a lot of people that are looking to homeschool. What would you say in reference to some of those parents looking to homeschool as kind of pseudo connected to the pandemic? A lot of people was homeschooling no matter whether,
right.
Whether you thought you were or not, because I assume when your kid was online, you as a parent had to be very involved to,
I'm with that. I love it. That's one of the things that I hope our organization will be able to do. I'm calling it homeschool incubation because I want to show our parents. First of all, if you're a parent, you're already an educator, right? Whether you know it or not, or whether you recognize it or not, you are an educator. You are your child's first educator. You are your child's primary educator. That's part of the reason why there's a lot of tension in schools, is because, there's this adversarial relationship between the school and the home. But the reason why I'm down for homeschools is, again, I'm talking about safe spaces for Black and brown kids. And I want to make that the safest space for Black and brown kids. And so our parents who are ready to be parent educators, I'm ready. And I know there's tons of folks ready who are ready to help you figure out how to do that. And you can do it in everyday ways. Cooking, right? That's math, that's science, right? That's social studies, right? Taking them to the grocery store. Again, all of that. Math, science, social studies, reading, writing, right? So how do we help, parents who aren't ready, maybe because of the pandemic or because, like me, they don't feel like public schools are safe for their kids? How do I help you be the best parent educator? Knowing full well, now I know about that stress too, because when the pandemic was happening, I was working with a third grader and a kindergartner, as they were doing their online school, right? So I know how stressful that is, trying to manage that. And so I want to help parents who want to do the homeschool thing figure out how to do that. And I'm also trying to get them paid, because that's work. So I'm kind of working on a grant like that. But back to the point of the homeschool, again, to me, it goes back to creating safe spaces for our kids. And if we can, in the home, I would hope that the home is a safe space. And if it's not, I'm gonna help you make it safer so that you can I'm gonna say contribute to the revolution in your own space.
I'm with it. I love it. And this is a refreshing discussion. You have a lot of theories. I could almost talk to you for that. So we're definitely bringing you back to Detroit is Different. And there's so many people I want to introduce you to, because
Please.
It was other work along these lines in that space that I've now kind of been engaged in. And now, even before close, I really have some of the, is there like a reading list? Is there a, how should, now we're talking about the parents, as a parent of, and let's go little homies. Let's go like first grade, kindergarten. Where should they be arming their student? Like, how can they assist in arming and continuing to embrace that whole idea? Because you're right, you're the first teacher. So how do you embrace that, being that first teacher in that parent capacity, as your student now is really starting the school journey in kindergarten or first grade?
I would advise those parents to, if they're comfortable, right? If you're comfortable, read to your kids every day. Get these babies books, not the tablet. Yes, that can be a supplement, but these babies need books that they can touch, and pages that they can turn. And if you're comfortable leading that activity, yes. If not, bring them to the literacy lounge. I got you. Right? I give your baby books. I'll read aloud to them. And you can come see me read aloud and learn how to do it, right? Or if you're comfortable, you want to do the homeschool thing, I'll show you how to read the books to your baby. Right. But at these young age, at the primary reading and writing, get them to learn these letters, get them to learn these sounds. If you don't know your letters and sound, send them to me. Make sure they get to school. I know I just said that public schools aren't safe spaces, but if you're not comfortable helping them on that academic journey, then make sure they get to school. Just make sure they get to school. And the folks who really care, they will take care of them. I know in every single public school building, there's a ton of folks that care. The system is broken, right? But so for the young ones, reading and writing, letters and sounds. You can make flashcards with index cards and a marker. That's what I'm talking about, stuff like that. You can go to the dollar store and get a bag of letters. $1.25 still, because then it went up, right? And get a bag of letters and just let the baby play it around, right? Match games. Reading and writing is what I would focus on for the younger ones. Help your baby figure out, if you can't do it, if you can't read yourself, find someone who can help that baby learn to read and write.
That's unique. That kind of reminds me of my friend daughter was at 6. I got her the magnets on the refrigerator because my grandma used to always keep those, and we just me and my sister, we play around with them and stuff like that, but we didn't even connect like, oh, this is like a toy, but a teaching tool toy, you know. And then it's like, all right, keep, you know, spell something else, spell something else, spell something. It was so interesting just looking at the kids spell different, you know, hat, cat, bat, you know, and play around with things. So yeah, I can see that. What about in reference to building a rapport and a relationship with the teacher themselves? How as a parent do I build a relationship with the teacher?
So that's a harder question for me because I'm used to coming in from the other end. I place the onus on the educator, but I'm gonna flip it around as a parent because I'm on that journey as well is becoming a parent again. And I remember when I was a foster parent. Now I'm tapping into that. What are the things that I did? Ask what. Asking that question you just asked me, ask an educator, how as a parent can I partner with you? And then being honest, like, okay, well, you know, I'm asking you, I'm coming out on a limit. Maybe I had a bad experience as a student, and I'm a parent and I'm here and I'm trying, right? But asking the educator what it is that you need me to do for my child is helpful. And then I think some self-examination, and I promise I'll get back to the question, but when I say self-examination, think about your own schooling experience as a parent and try not to project that onto your child, right?
How often does that happen as parents?
It doesn't, right? It doesn't. But that's what I would ask parents to do.
Calculus.
That's what I would ask.
Calculus in the second grade.
No, but for real, you asked me what I would ask parents to do is to if you can separate your experience from what your child is going through. The same way that teachers need to know who their kids are, parents know who your kid is as well. Y'all want to come up talking about, well, my son isn't that, but you know your child. And you really think I'm just out here picking on your child? You know your child. Stop being so defensive. Right. But that's also when I was saying I put the onus on the educators. We also got to not just contact the parents when the kid is in trouble. Right. It's a two-way street. So parents, I would ask that you ask the educator what they need, but then also ask yourself, am I projecting my own experience onto the kid? Am I taking, that's what I would ask. And then grace. Just give these teachers and these schools some grace, but also keep their feet to the fire, right? Because there are some educators that are just letting our kids go by, right? Be involved. I'd almost rather have a helicopter parent than an absentee parent, because at least I know you're paying attention. But try to get in the middle. Don't be totally out of the picture, but don't be trying to micromanage me, because I did go to school to learn how to be a teacher. I know what I'm doing. So trust my expertise as a professional, but also challenge me to make sure that I'm serving the needs of your child. Be aware of what your child is going through. And again, try not to be defensive if your child needs an IEP or if a teacher has a concern. Listen and measure it against what you know about your child, and then proceed instead of you just picking on my baby, or we not doing no IEP and we not doing that. Let go of the stigma, folks, right? If your child needs services, get those services for those babies.
Okay.
Right? And if you aren't comfortable doing it, ask someone for help. And not just a general, ask for help. But that you also have to admit that you need help in order to ask for help, because we've also come across parents who are like, "You trying to tell me how to raise my child?" Ma'am, all I said was, "I haven't seen your child in 4 weeks." And attendance is a part of the issue of why they're struggling academically. You can't take that information and be like, "So you trying to tell me how to run my kid, my life? You trying to tell me?" Okay, where do we go from there, right? So I would ask, parents to ask the educator what they need, but also just do a little self-reflection.
Okay. All right. So with that, we at the end. I got some classic Detroiters, different questions. As an outsider, I stiffed on the end, but the rest we gonna keep the same, sort of. Very first car, year, make, and model, and when did you get it?
Very first car?
Yes.
Very first car was a black Volkswagen Jetta.
Okay. That's
Um,
very San Francisco Bay Area.
yep. 11th grade.
Okay.
And I love that car so much. I got another one when I went to college.
Okay.
Same color, same make.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Where was the first place you went when you got it?
School. Yeah.
Sticking on brand.
Yeah.
Did you park it like in a cool place where people can see you pulling up? It's like no more taking the bus for me. I know that's
No, it was in the school parking lot.
Okay.
No place
It's
cool
if
like
you
that.
park
no.
it, you know what I'm saying? It's like that's where I was.
Yeah,
like, no more bus.
nah.
That was one of my favorite bus rides ever. You know, it was I know I'm gonna get my grandma a car tomorrow, so it's like I'm looking at people on the Dexter bus like, yeah, I won't be with you anymore. I got better things to do. Then I had to get my car fixed like 2 months later. Back on the bus.
Well, I lost my first car when actually it's so weird. A classmate's mama backed into me, not backed into me, hit me from behind on the highway. So random and rare.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. It was like, that's your mama.
That's your mama. Your mama broke
Your
my
mama
car.
got me back on the bus.
Got me back on the bus.
Back on the bus. You know, better public transportation out that way than here, but
Yes.
still,
Yes.
it's still a different, you know what I'm saying, a different flow. Okay, and then family reunion happens here. Where's the first place you taking your family? Maybe not even just the first place. Where you taking your family if your family reunion was in Detroit and you was planning it, and they're like, oh, you've been out there for so long. All right, we're going to go on and do the family reunion there.
You gonna laugh at me, but we come to Belle Isle and we get on that giant slide.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
Yes, I mean I love Belle Isle. It's beautiful. I'm from the Bay Area, so I'm bringing my people to the water.
Okay.
We going to Belle Isle and then we going to the Riverwalk.
Okay. Oh, you doubling down on water.
Yes. We got to be near the water.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, it's like they're gonna be like, oh man, and it's like y'all from someplace else, but they gonna feel it. They're gonna get that energy. They gonna definitely love Belle Isle.
Yeah.
You know, so that means the cookout happening there and all of that good stuff.
All of that.
I love it. So at the end, give your information. How do people get in contact with you?
People can get in contact with me via our social media, GLV313. That's our Facebook. That's our IG. That's our Twitter. Our website is gracelearningvillage.org.
Okay.
And you can email me at gracelearningvillage@gmail.com.
There we go. Thank you so much. And then also make sure if you got some kids over in that Russell Woods area, even if they're outside the scope, I don't know what the capacity is and sign up and all of that stuff. I'll put something like in the lower thirds and all of that stuff, but sign up, be there, check it out. This is definitely cool. You know you want to do something. Let's start off on a high note. You want to do some engagement with your kid. Don't just let them play video games this Saturday. It's their first full week of school, and don't let them just drift off away from the classroom and be like, hey, I got something else for us. And it's like, oh, trying to play this video game, mama.
It'll be fun, I promise.
Yes, it'll be fun. All right, peace. That is
Black revolutionaries, distillery owners, Italian fashion retailers, and Motown Grammy winners all share their best stories never before told in any other media outlets on Detroit is Different. Visit DetroitisDifferent.com or download the Detroit is Different app on Apple's App Store or Google's Play Store.